My name is James, and this is the story of how I gave up everything to raise my daughter, Emily. From the moment she came into this world, I thought she was my miracle, my reason to keep going, my best friend, and my family all wrapped into one. I thought we were inseparable, bound by the blood and the sacrifices I made every single day. But I was wrong. When she won $45 million, everything changed. I didn't lose her to death. I didn't lose her to time. I lost her to greed. And that kind of heartbreak, the kind that comes from your own child turning her back on you, is something I wouldn't wish on anyone. Before I tell you everything, I just want to ask you to do something for me. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon so you never miss stories like mine. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't just a story. It's a warning, a lesson about love, sacrifice, and the dangerous ways money can twist the human heart. I remember the day Emily was born as if it happened yesterday. The rain was pounding on the hospital windows. The air smelled of antiseptic, and my heart was racing faster than it ever had before. Her mother, Rachel, was exhausted, pale, and cold in more ways than one. She barely looked at Emily. And bye. The next morning, she was gone. She left a note on the side table. No long letters, no explanations. Just one short line. James, I can't do this. Take care of her. I can still see the handwriting when I close my eyes. That was the day I knew everything was up to me. That was the day I looked down at this tiny, helpless baby in my arms and made a vow. I whispered to her, Emily, I will never leave you. No matter how hard it gets, no matter what I have to give up, I will always be here. And I meant it. Life wasn't kind to us. We lived in a one-bedroom apartment in a run-down building, the kind of place where the walls were so thin you could hear your neighbors argue through the night. I worked days in a factory, nights in a diner, and weekends doing odd jobs just to keep food on the table. I wore shoes until the soles had holes in them. I skipped meals so Emily could eat. I stayed awake through exhaustion just to help her with homework or to read her a bedtime story. But when she looked up at me with those big brown eyes, when she smiled and said, I love you, Daddy, it was all worth it. The world could have taken everything from me, but as long as I had Emily, I felt Rich Dot when other kids got new toys. Emily got second-hand ones. I cleaned them, polished them, wrapped them like they were brand new, and she always smiled as if I had given her the world. She never complained. Not once did she say, why don't I have what they have? Instead, she would hold my hand and whisper, it's okay, Daddy. As long as I have you, I have everything. Those words kept me alive. There were nights when the electricity was cut off because I couldn't pay the bill. Emily would sit with me in the dark, and instead of crying, she would giggle and say, it's a magic night, Daddy. Look how pretty the candles are. She didn't see struggle. She saw adventure. And I thought, if I can raise a child like this, then maybe I'm not failing after all. I missed out on a lot of things for myself. I didn't date. I didn't spend money on clothes or luxuries. Every single spare dollar went to Emily. Her school fees, her books, her clothes. Everything I did was for her. People told me I was wasting my youth, that I'd regret never living for myself. But what they didn't understand was that Emily was my life. Every sacrifice I made was an investment in her future. I remember one night when she was about 8 years old. She was lying in bed, and I tucked her in. She looked at me with those shining eyes and said, Daddy, one day I'll buy us a big house. You won't have to work so hard anymore. I chuckled and kissed her forehead. Sweetheart, you don't have to buy me anything. Just grow up to be kind. That's all I want. But deep down, a part of me hoped maybe she really would achieve something big. Not for the money, but because she deserved a better life than the one I could give her. Every parent dreams that their sacrifices will pay off one day, that their children will look back and say, "My dad gave me everything." I thought Emily would be that kind of daughter. I thought she would always remember. But life has a cruel way of teaching us lessons we don't want to learn. I gave Emily my youth. I gave her my health. I gave her my dreams. I stood by her side through every scraped knee, every broken toy, every tear. I was there when she graduated high school, clapping louder than anyone else in the room, tears streaming down my face. I was there when she got her first job at a small cafe, proud as if she had won the Nobel Prize. Every little step she took, I was behind her, cheering her on. I thought we were unbreakable. I thought nothing, not even the worst storm, could ever tear us apart. But I was wrong. I couldn't see it then, but the cracks were already forming. Small things I ignored, because love makes you blind. The way she sometimes looked at other families with more, the way she talked about wanting to escape the life we had, the way her eyes lit up at the mention of money. I told myself it was normal. She was just young, just dreaming. I never thought it would grow into something darker. If only I had known what was coming. If only I had seen how everything I sacrificed would one day be forgotten, replaced by greed and betrayal. If only I had realized that the very love I built my life around would become the weapon that shattered me. But that realization didn't come until later. For now, at this point in the story, I was still just a father who believed his daughter was his world. A father who believed his love was enough. I couldn't have imagined that soon. A single piece of paper, a lottery ticket, would change everything. At first, it felt like a miracle, a blessing straight from heaven. But that blessing would become the curse that tore us apart. And when Emily's eyes shifted from love to greed, when her voice turned from sweet to cruel, I finally understood what it meant to be truly alone. It all started on a random Tuesday, the kind of day that felt no different from any other. I had just come home from a long shift at the factory, my hands stained with grease, my back aching like someone had driven nails into it. Emily was waiting for me at the table, her hair tied back, a little smile playing on her lips like she was hiding something. "Daddy," she said, sliding a small slip of paper across the table. "Guess what?" I frowned, wiping sweat from my forehead. "What is it, Em?" She leaned in, her eyes sparkling in a way I hadn't seen since she was a little girl. "I bought a lottery ticket." I chuckled, shaking my head. "Emily, you know that's just throwing money away. They make billions off people chasing dreams that never come true." But she didn't look discouraged. She grinned wider than ever and whispered, "Not this time." I picked up the paper and looked at the numbers. They meant nothing to me, just ink on cheap paper. But to Emily, they meant everything. "The drawing was last night," she said, bouncing in her chair, like a child. "And Daddy, I won $45 million. For a moment, I just stared at her. My ears rang, my heart thudded against my chest, and I thought maybe she was joking. But the way she looked at me, trembling, tears welling up, told me this was real. "Emily," I whispered, my voice cracking, You really won?" She nodded furiously, and before I knew it, we were both on our feet, hugging each other so tightly I could barely breathe. We cried, laughed, and spun around in that tiny apartment that had seen so much struggle, so much sacrifice. For the first time in decades, I felt like maybe our lives were about to change. In that moment, all I could think about was what this meant for her. No more working double shifts. No more worrying about rent. No more living paycheck to paycheck. She could finally chase her dreams, live without fear, and have the life I had always wanted for her. We sat at the table for hours, dreaming out loud. Emily talked about traveling the world, buying a big house, getting a car she could finally call her own. And me? I just imagined sleeping a full night without the weight of bills crushing me. I imagined seeing Emily happy, truly happy, without that shadow of struggle following her everywhere. "Daddy," she said softly that night, resting her head on my shoulder, "you don't have to work anymore. I'll take care of you now. It's my turn." Those words, I can't explain the feeling. Relief, joy, pride all tangled together. My little girl, the one I had carried through storms, was now telling me she would carry me. The next few weeks were a blur. Lawyers, banks, paperwork. Emily suddenly had people around her, smiling, shaking her hand, telling her she was special. I stood beside her, proud, watching her shine. And when the check was finally in her hands, when we held that piece of paper worth more than I could ever have imagined in 1,000 lifetimes, I thought, this is it. This is the miracle we've been waiting for. All the pain, all the sacrifices, it was worth it. But what I didn't know was that the same miracle would be the beginning of my nightmare. At first, things were beautiful. Emily bought us a house, not just a house, a mansion. A place with marble floors, chandeliers, and windows so big the sunlight poured in like gold. For the first time, I slept in a bed that didn't squeak, under a roof that didn't leak. I remember standing in the doorway of my new room, whispering, "This can't be real." Emily laughed and hugged me from behind. "Believe it, Daddy, we made it." We celebrated with pizza, champagne, and laughter that echoed through those wide, empty halls. For a brief time, we were the happiest we had ever been. I saw her glowing, more alive than ever, and I thought, she deserves this. After everything, she finally deserves it. But then, things started to change. It began with the friends. New faces I had never seen before, crowding into our house, drinking, partying, filling the air with noise and chaos. Emily introduced them with excitement, calling them her new circle. They were always dressed in flashy clothes, dripping with jewelry, speaking in voices too loud, too fake. Something in my gut twisted, but I stayed quiet. I told myself she was young. She was enjoying her life. She had earned the right to celebrate. Then came the boyfriend. His name was Ryan, and from the moment I saw him, I felt my blood run cold. His smile was too slick, his handshake too weak, and his eyes. They weren't looking at Emily. They were looking at her money. But Emily was blinded. She held his hand, giggled at his jokes, and looked at him the way she used to look at me when I was her hero. It cut me deep, but I kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to ruin her happiness, except it wasn't happiness. Not really. Because slowly, my Emily started to slip away. She stopped having dinner with me. She stopped asking about my day. She stopped calling me Daddy the way she always had. Instead, her laughter echoed from parties I wasn't invited to. Her time was consumed by people who didn't know her like I did, people who only wanted what she had. And then came the day my own daughter looked me in the eye and told me I didn't belong in her life anymore. I'll never forget that night. I was sitting alone in the grand living room of that mansion, a house that still felt too big, too cold, like it had never really become a home. Emily came in, dressed in glittering clothes, her makeup flawless, her phone buzzing nonstop with messages from people who, deep down, I knew didn't love her. "Emily," I said softly, trying to catch her attention. "Can we talk?" She sighed, clearly annoyed. "Daddy, I'm busy. Ryan and I are going out." Ryan. That name alone made my stomach twist. I could see right through him, even if Emily couldn't. He was charming, yes, but there was nothing real behind his eyes. "Just 5 minutes," I pleaded. "That's all I ask." Reluctantly, she sat down across from me, arms crossed, her phone still in her hand. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding. Emily, I just want to make sure you're okay. These people you're hanging around with, they don't care about you. They care about your money. And Ryan, stop it. She snapped, her eyes flashing with anger. Why do you always do this? Why can't you just be happy for me? Because I love you, I said, my voice trembling. Because I've seen what happens when people chase after the wrong things. I've seen lives ruined, Emily. I don't want that for you. She shook her head, scoffing. You're just jealous. You have lived your whole life working and struggling, and now that I finally have something, you can't stand it. The words hit me like a punch to the chest. Jealous? Me? I had given up everything, my dreams, my youth, my health, so she could have a chance. And now she was accusing me of being envious of her success. Emily, I whispered, my throat tight, I raised you alone. I sacrificed everything for you. I don't want your money. I just want my daughter back. But she wasn't listening. Ryan had come in, wrapping his arm around her, smirking at me like he'd already won. Babe, he said to her, we don't need this negativity. Let's go. Emily stood up, glaring at me. And then she said the words that broke me completely. You're a burden, Daddy. I can't live like this anymore. You don't belong here. Maybe it's time you moved out. For a moment, I thought I had misheard her. My ears rang, my vision blurred, and the room spun around me. Emily, what did you just say? She didn't flinch. She didn't hesitate. She repeated it, colder this time. I want you out. I felt something inside me shatter. My legs went weak, and I sank back into the chair, staring at her as though she had become a stranger. This was the little girl I used to carry on my shoulders, the one who used to beg me for bedtime stories, the one who once told me she would take care of me when she grew up. And now, she was throwing me away like trash. Ryan smirked, holding her tighter. Come on, babe. Let's not waste time. Emily didn't even look back as she walked out the door with him. I sat there in silence, the sound of the front door slamming, echoing through that empty house. The mansion that had once felt too big now felt unbearable, suffocating. That night, I packed a small bag. Just a few clothes, some old photographs, and the watch Emily had given me on my birthday years ago when she was still my little girl. Tears blurred my vision as I looked around one last time. This wasn't my home anymore. When I closed the door behind me, I didn't just leave the mansion. I left behind the last piece of my heart. I had never felt so alone, and as I walked away, into the cold night air, a thought clawed at me. The daughter I loved more than life itself was gone. Not because she had died, but because money had killed the bond we once shared. But what Emily didn't realize then was that money, as quickly as it comes, can just as quickly disappear. And soon she would learn that the hard way. The first few weeks after Emily told me to leave were the hardest of my life. I moved into a small rented room above a diner, the kind of place where the walls smelled like old smoke and the bed creaked every time I breathed. It wasn't home. Nothing felt like home anymore. I'd lie awake at night, staring at the cracked ceiling, wondering where I had gone wrong. Every so often, I'd catch glimpses of Emily's new life on the news or in magazines. There she was, smiling at glamorous parties, posing with celebrities, flashing diamonds bigger than anything I'd ever seen in real life. She looked happy, too happy. But when I stared at her face long enough, I could see it, the emptiness in her eyes, the same emptiness her mother had carried when she left us. I tried to push the thought away, telling myself she was fine, that she was living her dream. But deep down I knew something was unraveling. One night, months after she threw me out, I was eating a bowl of soup at the diner downstairs when the television caught my attention. There she was again, Emily, except this time it wasn't about a new car or a vacation. The news anchor's tone was serious. Lottery winner Emily Jameson has made headlines once again, this time for her extravagant spending and mounting financial troubles. My spoon froze midair. Financial troubles? The report went on, listing her endless parties, luxury shopping, sprees, wild vacations, and failed investments. Millions gone in a matter of months. The footage cut to her walking out of a casino, sunglasses hiding her face, Ryan trailing behind her with an arrogant smirk. My heart sank. I wanted to reach through the screen, grab her, and shake her. Tell her to stop before it was too late. But she wasn't listening to me anymore. I was just a ghost in her past. As the months passed, the cracks widened. The friends who had once filled her mansion began to disappear, one by one. The calls and texts slowed. The parties grew smaller, the smiles faker. And Ryan, oh Ryan. I always knew he was poison, and eventually he proved me right. One night, Emily came home to find him gone. He had emptied her accounts, taken what was left of her jewelry, and vanished without a trace. I didn't witness it, but I can imagine her that night, walking through the empty halls of that mansion, calling his name, realizing she wasn't. Just alone, she was broken. The newspapers tore her apart. Lottery princess falls from grace, from millions to nothing. Strangers laughed at her, the same people who once praised her. And me? I watched in silence, my heart breaking all over again. I remembered every bedtime story, every scraped knee I had kissed, every tear I had wiped from her cheeks. And now she was out there, crumbling under the weight of her choices. I wanted to rush to her side, but something inside me held back. She had chosen this path. She had chosen to cut me out, to call me a burden, to throw me away. I couldn't save her from herself. Weeks turned into months, and soon I heard she had sold the mansion. The cars, the jewelry, the clothes gone. She was back in a small apartment, barely recognizable from the glamorous girl the world once idolized. And then, one night, there was a knock on my door. When I opened it, I saw her. My Emily. Except she wasn't the radiant young woman I remembered. Her hair was unkempt, her eyes swollen from crying, her clothes worn. She looked so small, so fragile, like the little girl I had once carried in my arms after nightmares. "Daddy," she whispered, her voice cracking. I need you." When Emily stood there at my door, broken and trembling, I felt a storm of emotions crash inside me. Anger, hurt, relief, love. I had dreamed of this moment so many nights, imagining what I'd say if she ever came back. Part of me wanted to slam the door, to tell her she had made her choice, and now she had to live with it. But the fathering me, the part of me that never stopped loving her, couldn't do it. "Emily," I whispered, my throat tightening. "Come inside." She stepped in slowly, her shoulders hunched, as if she was carrying the weight of the world. For a long time, neither of us spoke. She sat at my little table, staring at her hands, and I just watched her, my heart breaking all over again. Finally, she whispered, "I'm sorry." Tears welled in my eyes. 2 words, just 2 words. But they carried years of pain, regret, and shattered trust. "I thought I knew everything," she continued, her voice trembling. "I thought money would fix everything. I thought Ryan loved me. I thought those people were my friends. But when it was gone, so were they. All I had left was the memory of you, the way you loved me, the way you were always there. And I threw it all away." Her hands shook as she reached across the table, trying to hold mine. "Daddy, please, forgive me. I wanted to. God, I wanted to scoop her up, hug her, and pretend none of it ever happened. But the truth pressed heavy on my chest. Forgiveness. Wasn't that simple? Emily, I said softly, tears streaming down my face, I love you. I have always loved you. That will never change. But you broke something in me when you turned your back on me. Trust isn't something you can buy back. It's something you build, brick by brick, and you tore it down in a single moment. Her face crumpled as she sobbed, the sound ripping through me. I reached across the table, finally taking her hand in mine. I'll never stop being your father. I'll never stop caring. But you need to understand money fades, beauty fades, people fade. Family is the only thing that lasts. And once you lose that, nothing else matters. She nodded, her tears dripping onto the table. In that moment, I saw not the woman she had become, but the little girl she once was the one who used to cling to me after bad dreams, the one who promised she'd always need me. I pulled her into my arms, holding her as she cried against my chest. And though the pain was still there, though the wounds were far from healed, I knew one thing. I hadn't lost her completely. She was still my daughter, and that meant something. Later that night, as she slept on the couch, I sat by the window, staring at the city lights. I thought about everything we had been through, the sacrifices, the miracle, the betrayal, the downfall. It all came rushing back like a flood. And then I turned to you, the person listening to my story now. Dot, what would you have done if you were in my place? Would you have forgiven her? Would you have turned her away? I don't know if I made the right choice. I only know that being a father means loving your child even when it hurts. If my story touched you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want to hear more stories like mine, make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss the moments where life changes in ways you could never imagine, Dot. Because at the end of the day, money comes and goes. But love, family, and trust, those are the things that truly matter.